Yesterday, Thursday, 7th October 2021, President Muhammadu Buhari kept faith with the tradition of early presentation of the appropriation bill to a joint session of the National Assembly within the ideal January to December budget cycle. The consistency which he has maintained a few years now has elicited commendations from Nigerians, especially financial experts, just as his charge to NDAs on making the budget gender responsive. They have equally expressed other concerns which border largely on realization of government's development plans with a budget against the present economic realities. The conversation on the 2022 appropriation bill continues on Panorama from our Port Harcourt Network Center. I am Diba Barisi Demaweke. Thank you for joining us. A 16.39 trillion naira budget of economic growth and sustainability has been proposed for expenditure by the federal government for its services in the 2022 fiscal year. President Muhammadu Buhari presented the appropriation bill before the joint session of the National Assembly. He described it as crucial in his administration's effort at ensuring that critical projects are completed, put to use, and improve the general living conditions of Nigerians. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports on the first gender-responsive budgeting in the nation's history.
It was a warm and befitting welcome for President Muhammadu Buhari in the hallowed chamber of the National Assembly as he formally presents the 2022 Appropriations Bill for consideration and approval. The budget proposal, the last expected to be fully implemented by this administration, is predicated on conservative oil price benchmark of $57 per barrel, oil production estimate of 1.88 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 410 naira 15 kobo to $1, a projected GDP growth rate of 4.2%, as well as an inflation rate of 13%. The budget is made up of a capital expenditure of 5.35 trillion naira, non-debt recurrent cost of 6.85 trillion naira, personnel cost of 4.11 trillion naira, 3.61 trillion naira for debt service, and a sinking fund of 292.71 billion naira.
Our target over the medium term is to grow our revenue to GDP ratio from about 8% currently to 15% by 2025. At that level of revenue, the debt service to revenue ratio will cease to be worrying. Put simply, we do not have a debt sustainability problem, but a revenue challenge which we are determined to tackle.
As the Buhari presidency proposes, the 2022 budget is expected to be funded by 10.13 trillion naira oil, non-oil, and other revenues, while a deficit of 6.26 trillion naira will be financed by new borrowings, privatization process, and drawdowns on loans secured for specific development projects.
Some have expressed concern over our resort to borrowing to finance our fiscal gaps. They are right to be concerned. However, we believe that the debt level of the federal government is still within sustainable limits. Borrowing at specific strategic projects and can be verified publicly. Very importantly, we have endeavored to use the loans to finance critical development projects and programs aimed at improving our economic environment and ensuring effective delivery of public services to our people.
Although details on the budgetary allocation to MDAs are yet to be made public, President Buhari gave a hint that defense and internal security will continue to be accorded his administration's top priority.
We remain firmly committed to the security of life, property, and investment nationwide. We will continue to ensure that our gallant men and women in the armed forces, police, and paramilitary units are properly equipped and well motivated. The 2022 budget is also the first in our history where MDAs were clearly advised on gender responsive budgeting. These are part of critical steps in our efforts to distribute resources fairly and reach vulnerable groups in our society.
President Buhari used the opportunity to appreciate the immense patriotic and collaborative support of the National Assembly to the government efforts at delivering socio-economic development and democracy dividends to Nigerians.
I wish to assure you of the strong commitment of the executive to strengthen the relationship with the National Assembly. Nigeria is currently emerging from a very difficult economic challenge. We must continue to cooperate and ensure that our actions are aimed at accelerating the pace of economic recovery so that we can achieve economic prosperity and deliver on our promises to Nigerian people.
The President once again thanked the lawmakers for the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act and hoped that the implementation of the new law will boost confidence in the nation's economy and attract substantial investments in the sector. From the National Assembly, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Economic and financial experts in Port Harcourt have applauded President Muhammadu Buhari for timely presentation of the 2022 appropriation bill to the National Assembly, saying it will aid efficient planning and management. However, the disparity in the increment from 13.5 trillion in the 2021 to 16.4 trillion in 2022 is one that respondents say must be justified by a visible and power improvement in the welfare and well-being of Nigerians. Joy Uzo reports.
The economic and financial experts, while acknowledging President Muhammadu Buhari's adherence to the appropriate budget cycle, made reference to the 2021 budget of economic recovery and resilience, and we are of the opinion that, to a large extent, there was an evident indication that the economy witnessed a recovery from the impact of the COVID-19-induced recession. However, they noted that the growth can only be adjudged inclusive when the welfare and well-being as well as the purchasing power of the generality of Nigerians are positively impacted. This, they say, can be achieved through improved security of lives and property and deployment of a larger chunk of the budget to the production sector of the economy.
I think in time past we had 7 months delay in the presentation of budgets, but this time around it's quite an improvement, and it shows that the government is trying to do its best to make it work.
The government must ensure that the current budget is channeled appropriately to boost productivity, to boost the welfare of Nigerians, to boost the well-being of Nigerians, and also the security of life and property.
The respondents also noted that, like the 2021 budget, the 2022 appropriation bill is still premised on large amounts of borrowing, which they said should be deployed to meaningful projects and boosting of the production sector to guarantee future repayment of the loans.
The way out is discipline. The way out is fully implementing the fiscal policies that have been laid out. Okay, follow it religiously, and there is hope at the end of the day if this is done.
We must do something that will affect the value of Naira, so that the purchasing power of the minimum wage can actually make sense to those that are receiving it.
While they regret that only about 5.35 trillion naira is proposed for Cap 2 expenditure, they were of the opinion that borrowing to fund the 2022 proposed expenditure shouldn't exceed the Cap 2 expenditure, while efficient monitoring should be in place to ensure full realization of government's development plans. In Port Harcourt, Joy Uzo, NTA News.
With me in the studio to discuss issues on the 2022 budget is Dr. Simeon Nebe, lecturer, Economic Department, University of Port Harcourt. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Let's begin with this conversation with the assessment of the 2022 appropriation bill, Christian budget of economic growth and sustainability. What's your take on it compared to the 2021 budget?
For me, it's a welcome development to have a timely presentation of the budget, which every sane economy will always look forward to. For me, it's timely, and I think it's better to have it at this time of the day. But the only challenge that has always been is that most people and most of us see this as a ritual. Every year in and year out, you just come and present budget. We say, hey, budget is passed, and we go home. Fine. The beauty about this year's budget is that it comes timely, such that between the mandate of the president is to say that between now and January, it should be in working. So that means by 1st day of January 2022, we'll be having a brand budget, which has not been so for the last few years from our observation. So for me, it's timely. But my only worry, as it's were, about this budget is the huge fiscal deficit involved. Talking about borrowing. And we are talking about economic growth and sustainability. You cannot sustain any economy if for today you have to borrow and continually consume without thinking about the future. My take is that with the goodwill of Mr. President, what he has done, if we can all queue in and know that this thing that we want to borrow is for our future generation, our children yet unborn, and we queue into this agenda he has presented to us. For me, it's okay, but it only becomes bad, seemingly, when it is not being followed, because the president he has a good intent for the country.
Okay, but he said this borrowing is for strategic projects and then boosting the production sector. Is that not good enough for the reason for borrowing?
See, the macroeconomy is driven by three main activities. First is production, the second is the level of money, and thirdly is the expectation. If you look at our economy, what has kept us where we are today is that the expectation about the economy has not been met. If you borrow money today from elsewhere, just like it's being done, look at what is our inflation rate. Because it's like a man who is having malaria. How do you assess the state of the malaria? For us, economics, we used to inflation, unemployment, the poverty level, the external instability. When you look at these indicators as we stand today, you discover that the economy is critically sick. And if it is sick, the trajectory of such spending is expected to boost it.
Okay.
I'm not worried about, like for us, the perspective of Professor Lana's view. You can continue to borrow and finance your economy. We call that functional financing. It doesn't matter. But the problem is that when you continue to borrow and the desired expectation about borrowing is not being achieved, that is where there is a problem. So that is my concern, and that is why I started my comment by saying that first thing first, the Mr. President meant well for this country as at the time brought out this. But what are the structural problems facing the country that will make each budget to just become a yearly ritual? That's where we should be concerned and start addressing it. That's my concern.
So how do you think we'll have to address the issues now we're talking about here?
The first thing first, we must have a credible data. If you look at 2021 budget as it were, look at the expectation. It was projected that the oil will be sold at $40 per barrel. But middle of the year, as at July, it sold about $68. If you look at inflation, what is happening to our inflation? And we were told that oil is going to be the driver. And if you see in terms of revenue profile to our budget as between then and July this year, the non-oil sector has been the driver. The so-called oil, who has been the giant of our economy in terms of contribution to our GDP, is gradually winding down. And that is why I keep telling people that the oil economy is dying. It's high time we should look at the non-oil sector. The non-oil sector in this case, we talk about agriculture, manufacturing, and all other services. If you look at what is the volume of Nigeria trade in service as we speak, it's very low because we are not producing. And that's why it takes us back to what are we doing? We talk about the productive sector. What makes you produce? You produce not because you have nature has endowed us. We don't need to go and look for anything. All the mineral resources that can trigger production is here. But what has happened? What is the value addition? If you talk of agriculture, what is the value chain adding? What are we bringing on the table? You continue to melt money, and that is why you see the high cost of food inflation we are having at the moment. People are consuming without going to farm. So who is fooling who?
So how does this translate into improvements in the average Nigerian, in the life of the
It
average
will
Nigerian?
continually to be so because people don't believe in this budget.
Okay.
The only thing, I thank God, this is the last cycle of 12 months that Mr. President is going to run a budget. Next year, because of election of 2023, is going to be midway. So this is the high time. The ministries, departments, and agencies of government have to live up to expectation. Mr. President cannot do it alone. We have to block all the leakages. And more importantly, we should not be seeing budget at this point as something you want to favor one section of the country. It is the time we need to live and believe in Nigeria, all of us.
Okay. How can we ensure that projects in 2021 are not abandoned?
The institutions must be up to their task.
Okay.
Everybody have to see it. If we do this and the legislature do what the president pleaded with them to do, that by first day of January it should be ready. If it is passed in record time, it's signed, and we take up in first day of January, you see that the economy will peak. The expectation is the most challenging part of every economy. People want to see things happen.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Simeon Nebe, for coming on the program. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has called for a review of the revenue sharing formula. The governor made the call when he played host to the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission at Government House, Port Harcourt. Ogedi Nyekwe completes the report.
The current revenue sharing formula gives the federal government 52.68%, states and local government councils take 26.72% and 20.60% respectively. This formula, Governor Wike says, needs to be reviewed. The governor expressed reservations over the use of 1992 population figure, public school enrollment, public hospital bed spaces and landmass as formula for allocation of revenue. He argued that a more equitable formula should take into account current population figure as well as enrollment in private schools and number of bed spaces in private hospitals.
It does not work anywhere in the world that operates in federalism that use the same formula of 1992 as a basis for revenue allocation in this country. It's most unfortunate. And towards the situation under the democratic dispensation, the same population were using the same enrollment figure. The only way that most of the problems of the states can be taken away is to reduce the percentage you are giving to federal government. They don't need it. They don't need it. Security, we're handling. Infrastructure, we are the ones.
Chairman, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Elias Mbam, says one of the mandates of the commission is to review from time to time the revenue sharing formula to conform with changing realities. He said with the dynamics of the political and socio-economic situation in the country, it has become necessary to review the current formula as it was last reviewed in 1992.
It became necessary that we should look at the review to ensure that each tier of government gets appropriate revenue commensurate with the responsibility attached to that tier of government.
He commended Governor Wike for his developmental strides and urged other states to emulate Rivers State. In Port Harcourt, Ogedi Nyekwe, NTA News.
We'll take a break now. Panorama will continue right after the break. Stay with us.
The vaccine offers hope for a safe country free of coronavirus. I urge all state governments, traditional and religious leaders to take the lead in the mobilization effort within their environment and spheres of influence. I similarly urge all eligible Nigerians to present themselves and be vaccinated in accordance with the order of priority already mapped out at the various authorized designated centers only.
October 2021, 290 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded in Nigeria. Till date, 207,210 cases have been confirmed, 194,796 cases discharged, and 2,742 deaths have been recorded. The 290 new cases are reported from 15 states, and they include FCT 127, Lagos 45, Kaduna 28, Delta 18, Kwara 17, Plateau 13, Zamfara 10, Rivers 8, Imo 6, Ekiti 5, Nasarawa 4, Edo and Ondo 3 cases each, Akwa Ibom 2, Oyo 1. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has presented some relief materials to Zamfara State government for distribution to vulnerable households across the state. The donation is aimed at complementing the state government's effort to lessen the effect of the new security measures adopted in the state. Jamilu Ibrahim has more.
Zamfara State Governor Bello Muhammad has recently approved the constitution of a committee saddled with the responsibility of distributing relief materials to people in the state with a view to cushioning the effect of the security measures recently adopted by the state government. This informed the decision of the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Haja Sadia Umar Farooq, to present assorted food items and clothes to the committee with a view to complementing the state government's effort in that direction. Special Assistant to the Minister on Political Affairs, Alhaji Musa Zubairu Nasrau Mailai, who presented the items, says more relief materials are coming to the state.
The President has given her go-ahead to procure more. I want to assure you that the distribution will soon be made according to stipulated guidelines, and it will reach all the IDPs.
The donation comprises 1,850 bags of rice and beans each, 2,500 bags of salt, 80 cartons of tomatoes, 2,500 liters of vegetable oil, and 100 belts and clothes. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
Empowering women and youth in Nigeria through agricultural development programs is a way out of poverty and youth restiveness. This was the submission of stakeholders at the flag-off of the entrepreneurship training on social and emotional skills for beneficiaries of the agro-processing, agricultural productivity enhancement and livelihood support appeal project in Calabar, Cross River State. Udwak Etim reports.
Agriculture at a subsistence level is said to be a critical source of livelihood for many in developing countries, including Nigeria. Empowering youths and women with skills that will enable them to take advantage of agriculture on a large scale and improve on their livelihood is the cardinal objective of this training by the Agro-Processing Agricultural Productivity Enhancement and Livelihood Support, known as APIS projects. Almost 500 farmers from the 18 local government areas of Cross River State are trained as beneficiaries on social and emotional skills, which they believe will impact positively on their agribusinesses of different value chains like cocoa, cassava, and others.
The essence of this training, essentially, is to help beneficiaries to know, one, how to manage their business.
This is going to help me have patience with my livestock. This is going to help me understand the people that work with me.
For the Cross River State Coordinator of Appeals Projects and other stakeholders, the training will equip farmers with knowledge on how to manage their emotions when dealing with customers.
For each farmer to know who he or she is, the inner him, and if he can control his emotion, then the other person he is dealing with will learn, and there will be a change, and the society will be better.
This training will last for 16 days, but it won't be a 16-day on a go. It will be for 4 days because we put them in the batches.
The Appeals Project is a federal government-assisted program aimed at enhancing agricultural productivity of small and medium-scale farmers, thereby improving priority value chains. In Calabar, Udwak Etam, NTA News.
And now sports.
However, remain Group C leaders with 6 points after 2 wins, while Cape Verde, who beat Liberia 1-0 in the other Group C fixture, moved to second on the standings at 4 points, trailed by Central African Republic, who are also on 4 points. Liberia are fourth with 3 points.
willing to really go back and work on the team. I don't know what will happen. I'm not suggesting that they should sack the coach right now, but the coach really need to put up a very good performance, bring up these players and let them play like a team.
It was shambolic. I saw a team that could not coordinate properly. I saw just individual 11 players on the pitch. They didn't play like people who are playing professional football in across Europe.
Super Eagles and Wild Beasts will meet in the reverse fixture on Tuesday, October 12 in Douala, Cameroon. In Abuja, I am Kenan Ima Aborike.
And as Panorama from Port Harcourt Network Center, remember, rape is a crime. Let's fight it together. Thank you for watching. Good afternoon.